Hello there, gaming buddies. It's winter in Finland. Sorry about the tone of my voice. Still sick on antibiotics, but they haven't really kicked in yet. So uh, I watched Sean Driscoll's response to my earlier PvP video and also Andre C. Martinez video on the same topic, and both gave me some good ideas that some things that I should maybe clarify, and some things that should be a bit expanded. First off, what Sean's video immediately made me realize is that in our hobby, we probably should differentiate between PvP and CvC. Uh, Player versus player is bad because that's out of character. Uh, it's problematic. That's never going to work. Character versus character, on the other hand, like Andre said, can be something that really brings the characters alive, makes them feel more real, might even move the plot along. And overall, I've never felt that this was a situation where you have to choose between all CvC all the time or no CvC ever. You have to find that sweet spot for your game, whatever game you might be running. And like roleplay game, Jason said in his video, don't be a dick. I think rule 0 is have fun. Rule 1 is don't be a dick. You remember that, you're gonna be okay. But a couple of things I should bring up at the top here. Now, disagreements between players, they are a different issue than CvC, but they can spill over into character interactions, and this can happen no matter how masterful of a role player you are. It's where CvC can turn into PvP and vice versa. This is something that should be handled as soon as possible before it gets worse. And even in cases where the players are not completely antagonistic towards each other and they go like, oh, it's just a game, man. Well, thing is, it can devolve the game into show wrestling. And unless everyone at the table is willing to make that change, you done goofed up, and the game you had is now gone. It's been replaced by this new thing. It might work wonders for you. It might be like, oh, hey, we started somewhere good and now it got better. Who knows? Again, different groups, different gaming styles. But, saying that it's just a game, that's a fine thing to say. I've seen footage of soccer riots. Now, of course, I'm not saying that they compare. Otherwise, I would run my games from behind a riot shield. But the thing is, tempers can flare up. And no matter how much of a cool cat you think you are, well, you should not assume that you and everyone else at the table are above it. Uh, Especially this comes up in groups where you don't know everyone yet. It's a new group, you don't know their personalities, their quirks. I'm talking about the players, not the characters here. And another way this would be a problem is if there's an inexperienced game master running one of their first games. You can really just, screw them over. So you have to, it's basic human interaction to be aware, like, how are the others going to take this? It's not. It does not turn you into some kind of a hippie just because you don't want to offend everyone or attack them in game and stuff like that. Uh, what Sean said, he brought up character nature. Um, again, should be separate from player nature and player emotions, but you know, if someone is constantly grading on you, it gets tougher and tougher to keep your head. Um, but I'm gonna touch on this a bit later. But the thing is, there are differences in games. Uh, if CvC fits the style of the game, um, I have no problem with it at all. It's of course it's great, but if it doesn't and it appears seemingly out of nowhere, it can be just dumb. I mean, okay, some examples. Let's say you're playing an evil party in Pathfinder. Maybe they're part of a cult or something, the same cult. Now, in Pathfinder, they make it very clear that there's no such thing as monolithic evil. That just because certain groups share the same alignment doesn't mean that they get along. In fact, just the opposite. They probably, I mean, an evil alignment is always something that's very self-serving. But an evil party in Pathfinder, could there be CvC? Sure. If one character starts suspecting that another might, you know, be an informant or sell their secrets or whatever. Let's say you're playing a group of wild-eyed terrorists in Eclipse phase. Now, their CvC can absolutely occur. Being a part of a terrorist cell, you're always paranoid, and you know, in a game like Eclipse phase where technology is very advanced and all sorts of espionage is complex, um, it fits right in. Let's say there's a bunch of random people that form a cell of hunters in Hunter the Vigil. Is there going to be CvC in there? Most likely, at least some, because it's a modern setting. The characters have modern problems, but they also have supernatural problems and psychological problems. Some of them might break, you know, over time. And you just have to keep in mind here that not all games are like these games. Um, you should take it into consideration. Don't just like squeeze in character versus character conflict because, you know, just because you feel like it. Find a reason for it. Don't just drop it in like, oh, by the way. Um, and this kind of relates to the next and my most important point. The player or players who just are not into it. If someone is not a willing participant of CvC play and they sit there as a bystander, like I said in the earlier video, they're probably not focusing on the game that much. Worst case scenario, they're sitting there bored while the CvCers are beating their chests and playing grab ass. Now, bravado and personal challenges can be fun, sure, but what if the other person involved in this conflict is not interested in it? Is your enjoyment of kicking their ass more important suddenly than their enjoyment of whatever else is going on in the game? Now, also, not to say that there shouldn't be consequences. Of course, there should be, but it's a very slippery slope, this one. And that smacking someone else's character around because your character is annoyed, angry, sadistic, or worst of all, you're just bored and looking to have something to do, well, this can escalate very quickly. And if you start hacking someone's limbs off, you better be damn sure that they are on board for this type of conflict. You gotta know. You gotta make sure beforehand, before you start acting on it. If you think like, "Oh, CvC is awesome," uh, and the game master said that it's cool, and okay, here we go, and I'm gonna take this chainsaw and lop some limbs off this jackass who just insulted me. Well, yeah, you can do that, but that's probably not gonna end well. Not for the characters, but well, for the characters as well, but at the gaming table, I mean, you should at least bring it up before you start rolling dice for the attacks. Again, rule number one: don't be a dick. And I had, well, this is a short gaming story example, so if you don't like those, you can close the video now. This won't take long, but still, some people don't like gaming stories. That's fine. From Hunter the Vigil, where I ran a very long chronicle, which is sort of on a hiatus now, but we played for a very long time. One person made a character that was this recluse hobo minister, and he was always a bit of an outsider, even amongst other hunters in that cell. But during the game, one of the stories, he got possessed by a spirit simply known as Fever. And this spirit made him commit all sorts of atrocities, turning him into what is basically known in hunter terms as a slasher. And despite the fact that this was a transformation, since myself as the game master and the player who played the slasher devised this whole thing beforehand, we plotted it out, and I made it as cinematic as possible. The reveal, I mean, it really did work, and he could play this basically now hunter turned villain, and there were no pulling of punches. When the other hunters figured this out and he escaped the group the first time, ran away. The others figured out that, okay, with the aid of this other hunter cell, we can possibly remove this spirit from our former colleague and maybe get him into an insane asylum so that he can't hurt anyone else and maybe get better. But Fever figured it out and attacked them. I mean, it literally drove a fuel truck into the church that they were performing this ceremony in, turning it into a blazing inferno. And there was a huge fight, both outside and inside the church, and it culminated in the death of this crazy person. But this was a case where everyone knew that CvC was a possibility, and it was plotted out. It didn't just occur. Sometimes spontaneous fights between characters can be fun, but they do have one major downside, and that is they can take up a lot of time, and if they don't go anywhere, that might be just time wasted. Because if the other players are not involved in it, especially in bigger groups, that's a problem. But this was one case where CvC had great meaning. And I would say that In games like Hunter or Vampire or whatever, where it's sort of oriented towards all sorts of not just internal conflict, but conflict between uh, characters and things of this nature, it does work. But you really should, even as a player as well as a game master, consider, okay, is it warranted here? Should I do it? Is it just going to be a distraction or a drag? Is it okay to enforce or reinforce CvC uh, right now? But yeah, I think that's enough from me. I can feel my voice giving out, and this video, I don't know why, but I make these really long rambling videos. Sorry about that. I can't help it. Uh, anyway, thank you for watching and have a nice day. Bye.